Here we go.
Great.
We're rocking and rolling.
Yes.
And anytime.
Action.
So, Linda,
Yes, Michelle.
how are you today?
I'm very good, thank you. And you?
Well, wait a
Yes,
minute, let me
right.
stop you for a sec,
Yeah.
because we did
Yeah.
tell us one little ditty thing.
Yeah.
So when you're talking to each other,
Mm.
Yes.
so you're talking to each other as if you're really sort of interviewing Linda.
Yes, okay.
Okay, so you're talking, and so you're talking back and forth, and then if you want to make a point,
Oh,
then you can look over at the camera.
Uh,
You know what I'm saying, Michel?
to underline, or if I want
Yeah.
stop the video, or if you
Just
want,
like this.
Well, if you want to just make
So,
contact.
like if I
Linda,
want to
such
ask
a-
you a
you know,
question, then I
yeah.
turn to you and do it.
And
But
then-
then if I want to make a point,
Then you
I
look at the
my
camera.
Ah,
as,
okay,
you know,
okay.
As it's
like
another
that.
person.
Ah, yes, okay,
Okay.
okay, okay,
Like there you
okay.
go, yeah.
Yes,
So you can emphasize that way.
Yes,
Okay.
okay, very
All right.
interesting.
Okay, so stand by. And let's see. Anytime.
Hi, Linda, how are you today?
Very good, thank you. Nice to be here.
Yes, it is a great day today because we are going to speak about the most important thing in the world, which is what will happen in the future.
That's right.
The past is the past, the present is already past, but the future is still ahead. So we have to think a little about our future. So
Right.
you are actually one of the best person in Los Angeles to speak about the future because you have been 30 years in this field, in the field of future studies. So could you tell us what means for you future?
Okay, well, the future hasn't yet happened, but we are creating it by what we are doing every moment. So we should think about, you know, there's a great phrase, if you always do what you've always done, then you'll always get what you've always gotten. So if you don't like where you're going, then think about maybe what you have to change to create a different alternative future. But I think humanity is endlessly creative, you know, and I do have a positive think. I mean, there's a lot of problems and issues facing the planet, but I think that if humans use their creativity and their ingenuity, then there's nothing we can't do.
So in the different possible future, because future is not one, it is diverse depending on what we are going to do, and also depending of our vision, our mindset,
Right.
our belief system. You know, so different people in different place, in different culture, are projecting, envisioning a different future. So what are those different future? What are the different future mankind are just visioning right now? Because you have been traveling, presenting future studies all over the planet. So what are the major future you see around?
Good question. I don't know. I think people have to, you know, there's general trends you can see like new technology, social change, environmental issues, global warming, need to raise our consciousness, all these types of things, but people have to still apply those in their own local area and see what works for them. So I was talking earlier about the fact that, you know, if you have new technology, you can't just apply it the same everywhere. You have to adapt it to your own culture, your own level of development, your own cultural values, all those types of things, and see what mix can work in each place. So
On the traveling, do you see major difference in the culture? For example, I know you have been in Japan for 1 year or more, building a bridge between USA and Japan. How just Japanese people in general see the future? Does they are optimistic, or they are more optimistic than American, or less optimistic? How different culture impacts the visions that we can have on the future?
well, I haven't been in Japan for a little while, but I mean, one thing that Japanese are into quite a bit are robotics.
Yes,
You know,
for
and they
example,
don't have
good
a
example.
fear about robots taking over anything as much as, let's say, in the West. You know, and they like technology.
They love robots. I know
Yeah,
this
they do.
because
Yeah.
I have some friend, a Japanese friend girl, who just have perhaps 10 different robots when I meet her. Can you speak a little
Oh, my
about
goodness.
singularity?
Well, the technological singularity is an idea that Ray Kurzweil, who's a futurist, came up with, and his idea is that in I don't know if it's 2040, 20,
Mm.
yeah, 2020 or 2040. Anyway, his idea is that at a certain point, the calculation speed of the computer or the machine is going to surpass the calculation speed of the human physical brain. And at that point, humans are going to become more obsolete. And we will, what he wants to do, he takes a huge number of vitamins every day to stay healthy till the point the singularity comes. And then he wants to, no, this is serious, he wants to upload his consciousness into a computer chip as his version of immortality.
Yeah.
But what was fascinating to me was this, the transhumanists, they're called. Another version is to augment your body, as parts wear out, which I think is probably, it's already happening, obviously, that. And I think for most people, that's probably more what they might want to do,
Yes.
to keep their body. But Kurzweil, has this vision for himself. And the underlying thing that was fascinating to me was to discover that he also wants immortality.
Yes.
Nobody wants to die, so he wants to live as well. But, because he has a materialist view only of how to get immortality. That's his vision of how to do it.
And actually, I don't know if the movie will be the same qualities as the ideas, but they are preparing actually in Hollywood a big movie, an important movie on this idea, on the singularity. So it is interesting to see also some idea who are especially in the field of future studies, and then they move on a larger audience through movie. But
he's gotten a lot of publicity. A lot of people are aware of some of his ideas. I mean, I personally think, this is my own biased point of view, but as someone interested in evolution of consciousness, I think that it's a somewhat reductionist view of what it means to be a human being, to just look at it. Consciousness is only a function of the calculation speed of the physical brain.
Yes,
I think it's a lot more than that. Yeah.
This point is very important because there are really two possibilities. Either we can consider our mind is just a computer, either we can consider our mind is working on a different way than a computer. And actually the actual computer are already more rapid, more quicker than Earth. But in the other hand, they are less creative, obviously. So it is an interesting discussion right now in future studies. It's how the mind and the spirit of mankind will evolve, and how computer will evolve, and could we imagine transfer our intelligence in the computer, or the computer will be only a kind of memory for us?
I mean, there's certain things
emphasize our own creativity. It is interesting discussion.
Yeah, it's a big,
that is
big
typically
topic.
Open different possibility in the futures. And other question, which is very important today, it is, for example, the water. What do you think about the water, the future of the water? Some persons say the water will be more important in the future than even oil. You have this even popular movie about the water being more important than oil. So it is the water question. I mean, will we have enough water for 10 billion of people? That is typically an interesting question in future studies. For example, I try to explain different kind of question who are interesting.
Well, water, you can't have life without water.
Yes.
I mean, I just, for example, over the holidays had a poinsettia plant, and I was gone for a little over a week, and I came back and the poor thing was totally wilted because I wasn't there to water it. So, we can't, our body I think is like 70% water, something like that, and the earth is also a great amount of water, and plants require water. Every living thing requires, I think, some water. So quality water is the real issue.
Yes, and actually walking now on Mars with through robots, actually, we discovered Mars was a planet perhaps very similar to Earth, but then for any reason the water disappeared, and then Mars now is a desert. It appears to be a desert, but it could have been
maybe it had life before.
Yes,
because they have found evidence.
So that is very interesting, but also that bring on the table one of the major issues right now. It is that perhaps in 10 years or 20 years only, very quickly the Earth could transform on a desert as Mars because of the global warming. So
warming,
yes, it could be, because and most of the people are not aware of this, So could you say one or two things about this issue, which is one of the most important scientific issue right now, which is global warming?
Oh, global warming, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, this is a very important issue, and I don't think we're taking it seriously enough, you know? And if the planet, I don't know the exact statistics, I'd have to check, but you know, even if the planet changes like 2 or 3 degrees, it changes the whole climate, growing season, and so on. It'll change the whole geopolitics of the planet. It has a lot of implications. And you know, you have, some people think we're in the 6th mass extinction of species on the planet today. And you see pictures like polar bears in the, you know, the Arctic and so on. And the question is whether many species are going to even survive. You know, if their habitat changes so much, and then they have to try to go other places to find food and to survive and so on. And humans are taking over more and more of the land of the planet too. So it's creating, you know, difficulty not just for, you know, for a lot of other species today.
Yes, it is a very interesting aspect, which is that mankind was very successful because it was perhaps the only species to be very flexible, adaptable. We have been on the North Pole, we have been on the equatorial jungle, we have been on the sea. We are a kind of a species which is very adaptable, but most of the people are not aware that most of the species, all the species, are really linked to a very little ecological framework. And the global warming is a threat for most of the species, and then for our species, because they die only because they cannot adapt quickly to the new conditions they have. So there are, of course, the global warming, but the global warming is connected to the extinction of species, which is even more dangerous, because as Einstein have said, if we have no bee anymore, then we will die perhaps 6 months later, because the pollination of plants will not be done by the bee. So we are understanding right now the complexity of the system in which we are, and the necessity for us to respect this very complex,
the complex web of life.
yes, this complex equilibrium, and that is quite new, because we was more perhaps in a kind of vision of the world more mechanistically. So there are also other aspect which is very interesting. Actually, it is the fact that we move from a mechanical vision of the world to a more systemic, integral, holistic, let's say, approach. Could you say one or two things about this very important idea, which is the move of the species to a new level of understanding and awareness?
Well, I mean, one of the principles of future studies is everything is interdependent, right?
Yes.
And within systems. And so if you try to solve problems and you just look at one little area by itself, you may not be able to solve the problem because that particular thing is interacting with everything else around it in a systems context. So taking a systems approach is much more important. And on the planet today, there's many of those issues: population, food, energy, environment, you know, water quality, all those things, the species extinction. They're all interdependent. They all affect each other. And so unless you look at it from that bigger context, you may not be able to solve the problems.
Yes, because for century we was more, we have learned, even we have learned to cut the reality in little sub-problem and speciality. And so now you have the specialist of the art, the specialist of the air, the specialist of the ice, the specialist of the water, but then we have lost the big picture, and exactly now there are a lot of people who can be. We know how open the art and change even our art.
Yes.
But in the other hand, we don't know how to behave on a healthy way, just on a healthy way of life, so, which is more a holistic issue where you have to do exercise, eat the good food, take care for yourself, do meditation. which is a more holistic point of view, but which is very important for your art, actually. Of course, it is better to don't have to change your art and just have a healthy, holistic way of life than just to have a big surgery. So it is interesting, this move from a very scientific, narrow point of view to a more holistic, let's say even spiritual way of seeing the life.
I mean, I think, but if I could just say, Western culture got into looking at the world in terms of, we're individuals, so we're separate from each other.
Yes.
We have individual identity. We're separate from nature, so we try to control it. We're separate from God on high. We have this sort of 19th century Western worldview that where things are separate from each other. Whereas the East was more holistic to begin with.
Yes.
Now we're all interacting. But I think in this country, for example, with food, you can find some people who eat a lot of junk food, and there are other people who really are trying to eat healthy food. So, I think junk food is cheaper, a little cheaper, so that, makes it easier. I mean, that's a challenge for some people if they have to really tight budget and so on. But I think more people are getting interested in looking at things more holistically and taking more responsibility for their own health as well.
Yes, so the future is interesting because it gives us idea about our way of life in the future, but also the future is interesting because it is an opportunity for us to transform ourselves. Actually, right now, began to implement a new world. And to unlock this power in you is very important because that gives hope. There are a lot of desesperance in this world because most of the people feel hopeless, feel that they have not the power, but we have actually the power, each of us, to create and unfold all the possibility we have in ourselves and to transform the world. Actually, just right now, we have a very good example of this, of somebody who was even in prison and who transformed the world even in prison. It is Mandela. It is a very good example of somebody who have created the future for his country, create the future for the planet even, bring some great idea.
Well, he stuck to his own vision, and if people listen to their own self, their own heart, and what, everybody has some way they can contribute, and each person is a little different. But, if everybody did something, committed to something beyond themselves, then that would add up to quite a bit of things that people could do that would collectively make the world a better place.
Yes, there are a good quote, which is a sentence of Barbara Marx Hubbard, which is, what is your gift to the shift? What is your gift to the shift? What do you want bring? Very unique in your own self. What is the very unique things that you want push and present and give to mankind to help the transformation? And this idea that each of us have a gift that we can unfold for helping the transformation is a key idea, I think, right now. Can you just tell us how you get interested by this kind of idea? Not only this idea, but I know that you have been interested in those kind of idea for years. So.
But I've been teaching for a long time, so I think if you're a teacher, you're trying to inspire your students to empower them to see what they can develop in themselves to make a difference. So I think that sort of follows naturally. But I think even cultures, have different contributions today to the planet. The work I've done on holistic evolving views of peace, for example, if you ask people from the West, how do you make a more peaceful world, they tend to, we're a doing culture. We want to change the world. We want to deal with social justice, various things we think we will change the world that way. Most Westerners, now a lot of Westerners are also incorporating other things too, but if you ask if Easterners on the planet, like Hindus and Buddhists, they will start out and they will say we have to find peace within ourselves first before we can create peace in the world. And if you talk to indigenous people anywhere on the planet, they will always start with we have to take care of the earth. That's our mother. And if we don't take care of the earth, how in the world, are that's our life support system, everything. So if you put all those together, then each group of people on the planet has a very important contribution to make to the whole today. So that's another way of looking at it. Each individual, but also different cultures.
Yes, there are a very interesting idea there, which is that even future study and future is about understanding the big picture on the long term, then there are a lot of application on the short term and for myself, for my way of life. So let's transform the planet, Linda.
Okay.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Well, it's gonna be a bunch of editing.
Where's the studio? Where's the 3 cameras? That was
Exactly.
awesome.
Was it good? Yeah.
You guys need to be doing this a lot. The two of you just talking, the
Really?
energy there, and just
Yeah.
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Really?
There's some good
Okay.
chemistry there.
Okay.
Serious good chemistry. I'm not just saying that either.
Yeah. Well,
And
thank
he
you.
shoots all kinds of things.
Very good.
You know?
Nice
Yeah.
job interviewing.
Yeah.
Nice job.
I didn't get to interview you though.
But
Next
it was
time.
good. It was a very
But
good
it was
dialogue.
still an
Very
exchange
good.
back and
It
forth.
was.
That was great.
And when people watch that, it really helps
Isn't that
the
good?
people who don't know,
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
I think you could, the thing I like about you two together is
Stop the, perhaps a little one.
Oh,
yes.